Dance, dance. Watch me now. Hey, we're all around, baby. We're well, I love her so now. I can mash potatoes. I can do the twist. I said, tell me, baby, do you like it like this? Do you like it like this? Tell me. Do you love me? See you later. I was the lead singer in a high school rock and roll band.
Were you really?
Way back in the 1960s. My neighbor Billy Sabella was given a Hammond DB3 organ by his aunt. And if you had Hammond DB3 organ in those days, you could do animal songs, you could do zombies songs. There were various other bands that were organ-driven. Jose Feliciano, my organ-playing friend, specialized in the 45-minute Gloria and the 1 hour Light My Fire. And the 1 hour Light My Fire, he could play with 3 fingers.
That's so cool. Now, he was in that band with you when you were doing it?
The band existed because his aunt gave him a Hammond DB3 organ. The band would never have existed without that. So, I was the lead singer, but he was the driving force. And like I say, the 1 hour Light My Fire with 3 fingers. Not a hard song to play.
Is there a Jim Lampley record out there where you're singing? You're like on the cover, like R&B Adam style?
No, I don't believe there is a recording of this anywhere in the world. To be totally honest, we didn't have that kind of equipment in those days. This is we're talking 1963, way back.
That's a travesty. That'd be a hit right now. Put that on YouTube.
It is an absolute travesty. That was my peak as a performer. Everything else is downhill from there.
I think people
talking on television. What is that?
I think most boxing fans maybe disagree with that one.
A lot of them.
I believe we've talked about it before. Berlanga maybe doesn't have the fanfare name behind, like Triple G, maybe, you know what I mean, Floyd Mayweather, obviously, guys like that. But you've said very clearly, Canelo's at a point now where he can kind of pick and choose his opponents. Is this kind of one of those, not to say tune-up, but maybe one of those, like, I'm going to do whatever it is I want to do, kind of like that type of statement that Canelo's kind of giving the fans with this fight?
In addition to the money, that's always part of the motivation, is to continue collecting the income and reinforcing the image that keeps the income coming down the road. So all of those things figure into this. And then there's an autonomy issue. This is not the fight that media wanted to see. This is not the fight that media told fans they should want to see. But this is the fight, obviously, that Canelo wanted to take. And I think that there's a very strong and vibrant part of his constitution that says, I'm my own boss. This is not basketball or baseball where I'm going out to play a game that entertains fans. Boxing isn't a game. And therefore, I have earned the sacred right to make my own choices in my own way. I'm going to fight who I want to fight.
We're talking about Canelo Berlanga. You had mentioned that he kind of has the autonomy, I believe is the word you said, right, to kind of do what he wants. How long does he have that autonomy for? How long? How many fights? How long?
For as long as he delivers in the ring. He pays it off by going in and winning in a style that continues to define him as Canelo Alvarez. Take the Munguia fight, for example. There weren't a lot of people who really thought that that Jaime Munguia had a chance to beat Canelo Alvarez. It was a fight that you were watching more because of Alvarez's aura and reputation and history than because of Munguia. But Munguia showed that he has talent. He had some pop. He landed some big punches on Canelo at the end of the day. Canelo walked through all that and, again, won the fight, which is the result that we have come to expect from him. So he's his own franchise. And when he chooses to fight somebody like Berlanga, about whom particularly boxing media, and by extension a lot of the public, are less excited than about the other guys whose names are associated with them, he's just once again demonstrating, look, we're fighting on Dia de la Independencia. My audience is going to show up. I'm going to make the same money that I usually make. And you can take it or leave it, but it's my game, it's my job, I do what I want.
You know, there's a lot made of the UFC happening the same night, right, just down the street. Oscar De La Hoya's, going to the UFC, maybe begrudgingly, against Dana White's, wishes, but he's going with Turkish, with another guy that's kind of going back and forth with Canelo. Is this weekend maybe a little more like about Canelo versus Turkish or versus UFC? Is that maybe the bigger?
Canelo's already shown that he isn't governed by Turki al-Sheikh's will. He didn't take the Crawford fight that Turki al-Sheikh very much wanted him to take. I have to assume that to some degree not taking the Crawford fight was a way of saying to Turkey, you don't rule the world, no matter how much money you have. So, I can see an element of competition there. But, both sports are going to continue to exist and go along their own path. And, I'm not sure how many times boxing has been pronounced dead. It's more times than you and I can count. It's still around.
Right. It's like, I always tell people, when people say boxing's dead, it's like the way Michael Myers is dead. It's like there'll be Halloween again next year. You know what I mean? Well, we're going to get it again.
As long as human beings can stand up and walk on this planet, whether it's boxing or UFC, as long as people can stand up and walk on this planet, people are going to fight for money. And now we know both men and women are going to do that. So nothing's going to wipe it out. I don't care, how many times we declare boxing dead. It won't be dead. And we'll continue to get the kinds of attractions that Canelo provides. He's pretty much must-see TV at this point in his career.
The other guy that a lot of people are talking Canelo fighting, obviously, is Crawford, like you mentioned. Crawford
appeared to struggle at 154 pounds against Madrimov, who didn't exactly offer an open and shut case that he's a 154-pound fighter now who can, at the moment when it's necessary, go up to 168. Didn't look that way. Now, maybe the next time he goes out in a 154-pound fight, he destroys an opponent. Maybe the next guy is not a sound, technically skilled, well-schooled Uzbeki fighter, as Madrimov was. But at the end of the day, there's a process there. And when I asked Canelo today, did Crawford disqualify himself with his performance against Madrimov, the answer was, I'm not going to say he disqualified himself, but he didn't exactly state a dramatic case that I had to fight him.
So who is there? I mean, if it doesn't seem like Canelo wants David, not for fear or anything like that, just not interested. I mean,
in my view, there's Benavidez. And
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't seem too interested in Benavidez. Like you said, Crawford a little. So if it's not those two, who is it?
And again, I think he is who he is. He's in the position he's in. He is saying to people like you and me, if I fight Benavidez, and logic says I will, it's going to happen on my timetable. It's going to happen under the circumstances that I dictate because I'm the boss.
No, 100%. The only maybe other guy that could do that in the sport is Gervonta Davis. He seems to be kind of having trouble finding a guy, like Loma seemed maybe like he didn't want to fight towards the rest of the year. That would have been a great fight. I think it still has the name recognition for it. Obviously, Shakur just got hurt, so he wasn't kind of in the picture as it was. It sounds like Ryo. I mean, I don't know. Is like who is there for Gervonta to kind of maybe fight next?
Somebody whose advisor says to him, "Oh, don't worry about it. You can take that punch." And I have to assume that there are advisors out there who've seen what I see and say, this guy has scary punching power. He has potentially life-changing punching power. So unless we're getting paid so much money that you absolutely have to say yes, there are other people you can fight. And I think that's going to be the case for a while now with Gervonta Davis, based particularly on what I saw against Martin. He's a killer puncher.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to talk the heavyweights real quick. Daniel Dubois versus AJ is happening next week or a couple of weeks from now. Just Anthony Fowler said he had saw the sparring between them. Obviously, been a lot of stories of Daniel Dubois and Joshua sparring. He said, Daniel hurt him, kind of laid off him a little bit. Does hearing those stories, you've heard those stories throughout your career all the time, right? Have you noticed that the fighter that was in favor, was positively in favor in the sparring, does that make an impact on the real fight? And does it in this case with Joshua and Dubois?
It can in some cases. I've seen that where incidents that took place in sparring ultimately showed up in the progress of the fight itself. But Joshua's been up and Joshua's been down. He's had both praise and criticism in his career. I think Dubois is a dangerous opponent for him. Competitively, that's not a guaranteed win. That's a fight that he could lose. I think what he's saying to us as a competitor is, okay, maybe I will lose this fight. And if so, I'll figure out what's next, whether it's retirement or going on to other fights. But at the end of the day, audience wants to see competition. I need to service my audience in Great Britain. I'll give them a fight that looks like a risk.
Do you do pound for pound, Jim? Are you a pound for pound guy? Like you kind of create your lists? And if you do, give me like top three right now.
I do maybe top three, okay, in my mind, but I don't really go much beyond that. I still believe at this moment, first of all, as I said, Canelo is number one dollar for dollar. What does that mean? It means if you want to make the most money, he's the fighter you want to fight because he commands the biggest audience and he consistently does that throughout his career. Is heavyweight boxing a different category? It is up to a point, but I think Canelo's consistency has given him the top rung dollar for dollar. Pound for pound is how good have you looked against what variety of opponents and by what margins are you winning the fights, and that's Crawford. And his performance against Spence underlined that he's pound for pound number one. Didn't help himself against Madrimov, but I still say at this moment, number one pound for pound is Terence Crawford, until proven otherwise. Now, could it later be Gervonta Davis? Yeah, certainly could, based on what I've seen.
I talked to Crawford before the Madrimov fight, and you remember Crawford said something on Twitter about after Usyk beat Fury, he was like, hey, if people have Usyk above me, I understand. Like, he almost even seemed to kind of like, I get why maybe Usyk is the best pound-for-pound fighter because of that performance. Does Usyk have maybe, obviously you just said Crawford, but I mean, Usyk does have that argument, right, to maybe be that top guy?
Yeah, I think he does have a strong argument. But to me, pound for pound suggests a possible flexibility in the fighter's career where he might fight at 1, 2, or 3 different weight levels and show that he can be good at 1, 2, or 3 different weight levels. I put Crawford ahead of Usyk pound for pound because Crawford was a champion at 130, 135, 140, 147. Now he's got a little title at 154. That's a pound for pound type case.
No, definitely. Jim, always great talking to you, man. I know you're hosting,
PPV.com.
PPV.com, the live viewer chat in HD, this Saturday night, 5 p.m. No subscription needed.
No subscription needed.
Jim, always Always a pleasure, Jim. Thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you.